Hello, hello, my fellow fans of the written word. How is it going? And what's new in my steading? Well, I'm moving soon to another country, so hopefully it will not affect my setup. If anything, it should improve it because I will finally have a decent work table because I'm recording these on a cupboard. Yes. But let's get on to Wheel of Time, shall we? Wheel of Time, where were we? Well, let's do not a quick, but a moderately long recap of chapters 15 to 25. Very eventful chapters, I have to say. Really a lot of things to talk about, so let's dive in. First things first, we have Thom's POV. He is on the first look staying in the stone, and he is using his knowledge and skills in the game that royalty plays and everyone else to plot against enemies of Rand, essentially, to plot against lords who do not like the changes in the establishment, who would want nothing more than to get Rand killed. Well, here comes and enters Moiraine to the scene. She is not too happy with his scheming, but she wants to give him a deal. And the deal is, apparently, she knows about Thom's nephew and his fate, and she reveals to Thom that two Red Sisters who essentially abandoned him after they gentled him, they abandoned him, and as a consequence of that he died, and so did his young wife. And more importantly, they did this on someone else's orders. This was not by the rules gentling. She gives him a choice. Go to Tanchico with the girls, because it's a very dangerous city and it will eat them alive. But you, with your skills and your silver tongue, if you can go there, you will surely survive, but you will also help the girls not to get themselves killed. So he goes. So we have a following, I guess, party of people. We have Nynaeve and Elaine, who are on a mission. They board on a sea folk ship called Wave Rider, I think, and they set off there with another person, with Julian, the thief catcher, who, unfortunately betrayed them, but not on his own volition, in the book prior to this. So, Elaine also has this weird thing where she has this almost a deja vu, a hidden memory, maybe a childhood memory that's emerging about Thom. She has a feeling that she knows him, even though he denies that. Maybe he doesn't remember. But everything's fine. So, also an interesting thing happens aboard the ship. The sea folk women are channelers, and they're called wind finders because they can channel the wind, which helps them to sail and earn the reputation of fastest boats in the region. let's go back to Rand. Back in the stone, Rand calls a meeting. And on this meeting, he tells all of the Tyrant Lords that no matter what, they must trade with Ilian and they must bring peace to Karen, because the civil war that's happening is terribly no good. And he does a smart thing by sending the lords who oppose him to deal with it, so that they cannot plot against him while they're away on a mission from their Lord Dragon. But something very historical, for lack of a better word, happens. Rand says that he is going away to the Aiel Wastes, which is to be expected, sure, but he drives the sword Kalendor back into this heart of the stone, and in a sort of act of defiance, and challenges anyone to pull it out if you dare. But also turns out he has a hidden agenda of sorts, because Moiraine is scandalized. Why would you leave such kind of weapon, this great tool of power? And he says that he has set up a trap which will destroy or harm anyone who dares with one power. Well, anyone who dares to touch it with one power. So that's interesting. Whew. What's next? Well, they set forth. He tells Matt and Moiraine that he is going to Rudian. I don't know how to pronounce that. I should have looked it up. Into the Aiel Wastes, like I said. So we have another party forming, which is Rand and his Aiel cohorts, together with Matt, Egwene, Moiraine, and Lan. And the way they go there, they don't use the Wastes, they don't use a ship, they use a portal stone. Rand activates a portal stone, but he does it with the help of an Angreal, which kind of helps him channel the power into it. And in the blink of an eye, without any shenanigans, they appear into the city, well, next to it. So now things get a bit complicated. He barely manages to channel everyone. He does it, but he kind of teleported a huge group of people, so he's super exhausted, and I mean, he can barely stand on his legs, so Lan has to support him while Moiraine heals him. They are then met by the Wise Ones, who are led, of course, by the Amos, who appeared in Egwene's dreams. And they exchange peace offerings, intentions. Everyone is relaxed, no hostility, and so on and so forth. But Avienda, who is with them, she is stopped and rather cryptically said that her time running around, wandering around, is done. Whatever that means. So, apparently, also a reveal, Ruark is the husband of Amos. Coincidence? I think not. But either way, interesting. So little things are intertwined in Wheel of Time. I would say it's too convenient, but no, I don't think there's such thing as too convenient within the world that Robert Jordan created, whether you like it or I like it or not. But there are no coincidences, I think. Not in the way we think of coincidences. So, what happens next? Shido, the tribe, is there, and a bunch of things with the clans or whatever they're called happens. The guy called Moiraine is sent to become a new clan chief, and another, I guess, warrior named Kaladin remarks that he will enter the area if Moiraine fails, but the wise ones refuse him. So in his stead, Rand formally asks the wise ones to enter himself. And everyone's surprised, but I guess Rand is pretty much now officially an Aielman, even though he wasn't raised as one, so he is accepted. But then something unexpected happens, and Matt asks for permission to enter. He is actually attacked for the sheer, I guess, insolence for asking to enter such sacred area, and he's a wetlander, so it's a great insult. But Rand kind of puts his foot down and he says, well, this guy here, he's going with me, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. So they don't, which is once in a while, Rand should do that. So they both enter there, but what's weird is they have to enter it without any weapons, so they enter there naked, unprotected. So let's switch to Egwene for a moment, shall we? We have Egwene. She also kind of is unsure if she should go or not, but turns out her, I guess, coming was not foretold, so in dreams, and there's no need for her to go there to test herself. Instead, she should just use this time to be more acquainted with the act and principles of dream walking, which she does. But back to the boys. The boys, as I said, enter the city without weapons and equipment, and the strange fog is surrounding the area. So, and at first they see a crystal terangrial. Well, Rand does. Rand enters one of the terangrial, and he learns a lot about his people, the Aiel. Even some things that Aiel didn't know themselves, like that Aiel people, Aiel nation, I don't know what would be the proper plural term for them, but they used to follow what is known as the Way of the Leaf, which means they were dedicated to peace in the old tongue. Means they were not a warrior nation, or at least not such nation hell-bent on warfare. He also learned something about the Tinkers, I think, about their origins. They are a quote-unquote pure bloodline. They descend from the Age of Legends. There's kind of a straight line there. And he also has a vision of Kaladin's brother dying or being mortally wounded. Matt has problems of his own because he enters a second terangrial, a separate one, when he frolics around, and another adventure with extraterrestrial dimensional animal people, because this time it's not snake people, it's fox people, Eflin, and he is kind of falsely prepared for asking questions, expecting cryptic answers, but instead he is just bestowed with gifts. So he receives well, memories of all generals and soldiers and lords. He receives that instead of the memories he lost. Cursed by the dagger, which is awesome. He receives an amulet that will shield him from Aes Sedai and One Power, which sounds insanely powerful, that thing alone. And he also receives some kind of a spear weapon. And to top of it all, his knowledge of the Old Tongue is refreshed. He is now fully fluent in the Old Tongue. How cool! This whole thing is really cool. I'm not gonna lie. This is amazing. But for all that, of course, there was a price to be paid. So they leave him hanging. The people, the Fox people, leave him hanging from the Tree of Life. Afterwards, but Rand finds him and resuscitates him, revives him, heals him, and they kind of go back. But they do encounter one of those evil bubbles of evil leaks on the way. And that's it. Now let's go on to questions.
5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
I don't have a lot of questions. I only have 2, but they're kind of faceted questions, if you can call them that. So, Lyanna, she is and this is kind of a question that I have that also kind of touches the previous chapters as well. She mentions one thing, which is she is the Aes Sedai that is kind of closest to the Amyrlin at the moment. She is a confidant of her, a friend of the confidant. To quote a terrific, monumental TV show, Golden Girls. She mentions a law to Siwan that there is a law essentially that must be followed when it comes to gentling someone. And this is in relation to another false dragon that must be gentle, that Siwan orders to be gentled. So Siwan chooses to ignore that law because she wants that Mazrim, was it his name, to gentle him on sight. So my first, I think, sub question is, what does that law state specifically? That you can't gentle someone unless they are an immediate danger to everyone, that you can gentle them if the order has not been given from the absolute top. How does that work? Also, the timelines maybe not align, but I got to ask, is she the one who got Tom's nephew killed? Because that would be a delicious, delicious piece of drama, a delicious morsel of drama. But I don't think that's the case, because it has been stated that someone else gave the orders to the Red Sisters. But who? Who gave the orders? And how can someone work independently from the Amyrlin? Shouldn't Amyrlin be in charge in such important issues such as male channelers? I mean, it is the job of Red Aja to hunt them, but to be the judge and the jury and the executioner, that seems a bit too much, even for them. But let's move on to things I liked. For starters, just a simple but effective quote. Time is a wolf and it may be rabid. Just that. Another thing, I do find it unsurprising but equally amusing that the White Cloaks were founded by a supposedly virtuous man. At least Galad thinks this person who founded the order is worthy still of admiration, regardless of what the White Cloaks have became. Another thing about Moiraine that I liked, she does seem to display a genuine empathy towards Tom's grief about his nephew, because she, even though she's being opportunistic here, because she absolutely is, she's using him for her goals. But I don't mind her being opportunistic here because there is a lot at stake here. She's always looking at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture matters. The things that are in danger, well, there's the whole world at stake. So of course she will manipulate someone. But I don't think she is malicious in her doings. Also, I think that the whole subplot of quote unquote unlawful gentling is an absolute goldmine of character development. The fact that Red Sisters supposedly received an order from someone, then the Emerald seat adds to the intrigue at large. And I live for that. That's not melodrama, that's just drama. And drama is good. Drama is fun. It's interesting to read about. I also want to just praise Robert Jordan's just methods of conveying the importance of information and how it travels in the world, because oftentimes in fiction it's usually disregarded, especially in fantasy. In a world where there is magic, especially in a high fantasy world, well, someone's gonna come up with a magical phone, would they? Maybe in some works they do, but oftentimes they just ignore it. But Robert Jordan displays the speed by which the rumors travel. Not only that, but how people get their news. So an outsider visits a place and the first thing they're asked is, what news do you bring from this and that region you come from? And so on. And I think this is a very effective way of storytelling. It adds to the immersion of Robert Jordan's narrative. It's just a good writing practice. Another small tidbit, but the one that amused me, was the concept of bridges being somewhat abstract to the nation of desert people, because these desert people live in areas without bodies of water. So that makes just too much sense for them to be, oh yes, I'm familiar with the concept of bridges, but what is a bridge really? What's the deal with bridges? That's just an effective piece of writing, and it put a smile on my face. Nynaeve. Some would say that she's being needlessly antagonistic when she's discussing Thoms and the thief catchers intend to board their ship. But she does have a point. The face of the thief is familiar to the Black Archer. Not even counting the betrayal, because betrayal was not voluntary. He's remorseful about it, but he could not do anything about it. It's not his fault. But consider this. The more people have to keep a secret, the more it complicates any kind of operation or endeavor. It just does. Another thing is, I really found it fascinating to find out that Tyr's population, or at least the settlements, villages around Tyr, are being controlled. Their population number, their size is being controlled by the lords, because they stop any kind of development that would put the city in jeopardy, that would overshadow the city potentially. I think Elaine mentions that. And that's just another piece of world building that was cleverly weaved into the story. See what I did there? But it wasn't, hey, did you know that this and that? No, it was relevant to the chapter, because Elaine was thinking about leaving the city and how is she leaving this place, and she's going away, and the people who work there are treated badly by the lords and so on. So kudos to you, Robert Jordan. Another thing, and that's just a silly thing, but I would really like to see that figurine of a fat man holding a sword, the angry owl that helped Ram to channel. It sounds like a fat Buddha with a sword. I want to see that. And my last thing that I liked, I think that in general, a change in a setting really improved the pacing. Improved the pacing and the flavor from sailing chapters, which I always like. I adore sailing sections, sailing novels, even novel sections of novels. So from that to desert setting, it really brings a sense of just the size of the world and the diverse climates and everything else. So there is more to the world than the wetlanders fields, is it? Let's move on to my criticism, which is, well, as much as I enjoyed these 10 chapters, and I really did, it was one of the most enjoyable group of, well, just in terms of developments, it was some of the most rewarding, I think, ever at this point. But I do have one major criticism, and it is the only complaint that I have. So I think that chapter 16 was probably my least favorite chapter in the entire series, which sounds dramatic, but hear me out. It's just all boils down to melodrama. It was an absolute nothingness that all boiled down to just pure melodrama about who goes with who, and it's all about you guessed it, Fail and Perrin. So who goes with who stays with who tricks someone to go, who refuses to communicate properly, and Fail trying to drag Loyal into her lover's quarrel with Perrin. Just a lot of eye rolling and nothingness, page in, page out. And that's not to say I'm averse to relationship issues on a page. I mean, in contrast, the chapter where Alan professes his feelings for Nynaeve and makes a scene in front of the girls and kisses Nynaeve and has this just a very effective, very touching scene with Nynaeve. So Jordan is capable of doing that. Maybe I'm talking about different kinds of people. Nynaeve is an adult woman. So is Lan. He is much older. So maybe I'm just comparing apples to oranges here. They are from different generations. But I think that Fail, the character, might be the cause of the problem at this point. When a character exists solely to create a conflict and nothing else, I think that drags everything down with them. Which is not to say that she might not get proper development in the future. I believe she will. I mean, after all, Matt did, and I don't hate him anymore. But at this point, she is still very much annoying and not temperamental or someone who gets into amusing situations thanks to her short temper like Nynaeve does. No, she's just Fail. And I don't understand what's her point, but I guess I will with time, hopefully. But let's move on quickly to predictions.
Well, it's only a guess, but it's all I have to go on.
Regarding the Calendar trap, I do think there will be some kind of a payoff with it, but for who and when, now that's the question. I don't think it will happen in this book, but I could be proven wrong. Prediction number 2. Egwene will master the dream walking skill, but it's interesting. I mean, the more she is going through all these things, she's traveling, she's meeting the Aiel dream walkers. She is more and more becoming this hybrid of a wilder, less of a Aes Sedai and more of, well, something else, something better, maybe potentially a hybrid of some sort, the best of both worlds. We'll see. And lastly, my prediction about Perrin. I have a feeling that Perrin will be too late with his march to the two rivers, but if not completely late, I think that at least some of his friends or family will already be gone, but not everything else. I don't think this will be a roaring rampage of revenge. Maybe it will be, but I think he will be saving as much as avenging. So, with that being said, thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.